Welcome to the Business Interview. I'm Marcus Carlson. In this show, we're honing in on leadership. How do you become a good leader? Can just about anyone do it? My guest is Marianne Abib-Pech. She's French, but calls herself a product of corporate America. She used to work in finance for companies like General Electric and Shell. Now she started a consultancy company called Leaders, Inspiring the Future. And she's also the author of the Financial Times Guide to Leadership, this book that you've written. Welcome to the show, Marianne Abib-Pech. Let's talk about this book then. Why did you feel the need and the urge to write this guide to leadership?
I think as part of leadership, there is a big part of you who has a responsibility to share and help other people get to, I'm not sure I should say leadership, but clearly the best version of themselves. And this was my attempt to help others. I think I've been incredibly fortunate in my own career, worked for the best company in terms of leadership program, had the best mentors one can ever have. Mm-hmm. And it was part of my duty to give back and give other as many as possible.
Do you think there's a lack of leadership? Is that one of the reasons why you wanted to write the book?
No, it was more a giving back moment, but if you look at where the society is going right now, there is an inherent lack of leadership. As the world is changing so fast, leadership model needs to be completely reinvented.
How so?
Most of the leadership model were very static and very almost autocratic up to the 80s, 90s. With technology, with the increasing impact of diversity, it called for new types of leader. Mm-hmm. One of my profound beliefs, and I think it's one thing I say in the book as well, is leadership is only the product of the environment you're in. If you observe the environment today, connected, ask for community feeling, diverse, the economy is diverse, the workforce is even more diverse, gender is becoming a huge issue in terms of value. The world is also in crisis when it comes to the value crisis. You know, the scandal in financial services, the LIBOR scandal, or now even the price fixing on oil scandal. Mm-hmm. And also it's a world which is becoming more and more complex.
Is it more difficult being a manager or a leader today than it used to be a few decades ago?
I think so. I think so because nowadays you are not in problem-solving mode. You are in managing uncertainty and complexity even more than before. The technology has completely changed society and completely changed what's happening in a company. You're connecting all the time, you can share, and it creates a completely different environment for manager and for leaders.
I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to pick one quality that a leader today has to have, what would that quality be? What's the key point, so to speak, in 2013?
Authenticity.
What does that mean?
It means knowing yourself, knowing who you are, what drives you, what you want, and being brave enough to show it, to establish a deeper, more emotional connection with your workforce. At the end of the day, look at the etymology of the word. Leaders means people want to follow you. Mm-hmm. They want to follow you because you connect with them at a certain level, intellectually, emotionally. If they can't connect with you, they will not follow you. And if you're not authentic in what you do and how you carry yourself, they'll feel it. Our brain is fantastic for that. We know things without being able to rationally explain them. So authenticity is what, for me, is the key criteria of leaders today.
Now, in the book, you mention a few leaders, including the former chief executive of General Electric, your former employer, Jack Welch. Mm-hmm. You also mention the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs. If we start then with Jack Welch, how is he a good leader from your perspective?
I think Jack Welch was a fantastic leader in the time he was a leader, so the 80s, because it was still very process-oriented type of economy. Productivity was important. What he brought to the leadership agenda is really two things. First of all, for him, he knew himself very well. Winning was everything. And engineering a corporate culture that was all about winning. Mm-hmm. It cascaded down perfectly in the entire company culture, being, the bottom thema of the workforce being asked to leave every year, being first or second in the market or out of the market. The second thing he did was creating a fantastic leadership development program. He thought everyone in this company have to be the best at what they do. So we're going to train them, we're going to invest in them. The third thing he did was, and more from a finance perspective actually, he decided that finance needed to change and he needed financiers that were business people, understand the business more than, counting or checking the balances. And he put as a CFO a business person. So he created a completely new breed of leaders in finance that are now, they're the most renowned people you can find. They even have headhunter looking for XG finance people.
What about Steve Jobs? He's celebrated, of course, for founding Apple. Was he a good leader?
I think it's an interesting question because to me, Steve Jobs is a certain type of leader, but he's not a great model of leadership. He's an innovator, first and foremost. He translated customer centricity into product centricity, and that is extremely new. Now, I don't know if you've read his biography, but Steve Jobs was a person extremely hard to work with, and he was very autocratic. So I think there's a distinction on being a good leader and embodying maybe one attribute of leadership, which is still important, even more important today, which is innovation.
Do you think that good leaders are born good leaders, or can you develop leadership skills as you go along? Is it nature or nurture, I suppose, is my question.
You have like 20 books that can pretend to answer this question. I think, to me, the real answer is it depends. I think as every organization should have as a vision to develop the best professional possible in their workforce. Now, some of them are going to have the inherent ability because they're energetic, because they're naturally curious, because they are naturally people person, and they will become the leaders, but some of them won't. So I think it's a bit of both. To be a leader, it requires also discipline. And discipline can be taught. You can tell to somebody.
But how do you mean disciplined? How does a leader need to be disciplined?
A leader needs to be disciplined in its action towards leadership. So if you decide, a leader needs to define what is my leadership brand going to be? What do I want to stand for my workforce or for my organization? And systematically work on it by watching the word they use to translate the attribute into action, having almost process to follow to embody what their leadership brand is going to be.
Now, you're French, but you spent most of your career outside of France. You say that you're a product of corporate America. Do you think that different leaders, do they need different skill set in different countries, or is leadership sort of a universal skill?
I actually spent my entire career outside of France. I think that leadership can be defined across the globe. You have certain traits that are going to be there: innovation, strategic thinking, vision. But how you express leadership and embody leadership is very culturally driven. So a leader in China is going to be different from a leader in Western Europe. A leader in China is going to need to have what they call guangzhu. The network is going to be much more respectful of authority or elder. In the Western world, it's pretty much different.
Was it a conscious choice from your side to spend most of your career abroad?
No, it just happened. I left to study in Edinburgh, and I never came back. I moved to Luxembourg, worked for Arthur Andersen there, and then to London, and then Spain, the US a bit, and then Hong Kong. No, it was not conscious. It was things happened, and I just took the opportunities.
And when you look at the corporate landscape in your own home country, in France, do you think that corporate landscape needs to change from a leadership perspective too?
I don't look at my homeland corporate landscape because I get scared. I think I think there's a lot of things to change in France. There's a certain element of hierarchy, risk of fear of failure. In France, it's not appropriate to fail. And if you don't fail, how can you learn? And that's what I really like in the American culture or the American corporate culture.
I was going to say,
they empower you.
Is it much different in the Anglophone world?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of my first mentors said, I was asking him, can I do that and all that? And he said, well, stop being so French. You know, ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
It's a lot easier to do that.
It's a lot easier. Yes, it's a lot easier.
So take action. That's another one of your key messages.
Yeah, take action. Drive the change you want to see. Push the boundaries. The worst that can happen, people call you off on it.
All right.
Or you fail. But either way, either you made a difference or you learned.
Okay. Marianne Abib-Pech, unfortunately, we have run out of time. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed for being here.
Thank you, Marcus.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this show. Thanks for watching France 24, and do stay with us. We have more news coming your way soon.